we jump into the new Breeze in Valorant, I wanted to take a look at the old Breeze and the pictures that they released when they released the patch notes. And we can do a little bit of investigation here to ourselves as to why they may have decided to make the changes that they made to middle on Breeze. So I'm just going to go ahead and pencil in the changes. So one of the changes that they added was a wall here. And so with this wall, this is kind of like now all covered. They added a jump up box as well as like this lip up here with another jump up box. They added a box here. And I think that is about it for this side. Just a small note that there's like kind of a little cubby hole that like once you get past this wall, it kind of fits back, and like that's what connects to the jump up boxes. And then kind of like continuing those changes, you see that the wall here more or less kind of like connects over here to the boxes, and this all up here is faded in, and then there's like a cutout here where defenders can now sit, which kind of makes middle more defensive for the defenders because they can walk down middle and hold this while only having to kind of like watch these two angles, whereas before walking down into this gave you this area, but more or less attackers usually filled this spot, and so you would almost instantly always get some sort of like fight, right? So, and then finally, like taking a look at here, there was a box that was like added here, and then like we said, another box that was added here, and then this door is now flat with the new box, opening up this, and then this door is the same. So let's go ahead and jump in and take a look. All right, we're in Breeze and we're getting up in the air so we can take a better look at kind of what the area they filled in. So as you can see, this is kind of where the the C-shaped area was, and this is the new cove area that they kind of cut out. And let me get a kind of a better angle of all this so you can kind of see it in all its glory. But as you can kind of see, we're in the center, and as we go higher up, we can see the different things that were added to the map. We can see if we go all the way back down, we'll go ahead and measure out the spaces. So as we drop down, we'll go ahead and measure the wall. So the distance to the wall here is 23 meters. And as we travel up towards the middle doors, as we get closer, as we're pieing, as you can see, we can see them before they can see us. So that means that from this distance of 20 meters to the distance past the 20 meters, so like where our brimstone is. So if we're in this back corner here, the distance is now 22 because we moved back a bit. And if we look, we can still see brimstone. So it's really important to put your back against this wall so you can get max distance. So as you can see, we can slowly creep up on like a brimstone who'd be like holding middle or something. Yep, and so these are the changes. As you can see, there's the cubby right there. All right, from the other perspective, this would be from the brimstone's perspective. You can see that as he peeks out, he can see across to the cubby, but because of the distance that he sees, it is shorter than the angle that we had. So in order to correct this, you can go ahead and move backwards, but of course that's in view of main, so we'll have to go a little bit further back. But kind of from this angle, we've changed the approach. So now we have the advantage because we are farther away from where the enemy would have to come out, right? So when the enemy is approaching, as we saw, we are able to see him first, and that's simply because we are farther away from this vertex of the door to the brimstone. And as we go farther back, we can go ahead and see the angles that you can take when a person pushes up through the boxes. So when they do the jump up and try to cross, this angle kind of like shows you all the different sides and kind of like the distances between the two angles. And we can go ahead and set it up so the brimstone pops out so you can kind of like see where he is at in relation to you. But this is like the new angles that were created by kind of the changes that were made in 7.04. Another ingredient that comes into play when you're playing Valorant and using angles and distance to maximize your advantage is what gun you bring to the gunfight. Now, guns have a tremendous amount of different stats different play styles. So you should kind of adapt to situations based on not only the angles, the distance, but also the guns that you're using. And so I want you to take a look at these two videos. On the left-hand side, there will be a person using a vandal. And on the right-hand side, there will be someone using an operator. Now they're going to make pauses at each of the stages. And I want you to think, if you were in that position and you had that gun, which one would you want? What would be the advantages for picking either one? What would be the disadvantages? And then once you have those answers, I'll go ahead and I will record my own opinions on the idea. And you can go ahead and match up and see if we have roughly the same idea. Two guns we were given a choice of were the Vandal and the Operator. Now when I think of this angle, I'm thinking about any sort of swinging enemies that might play from here or here. But for the simplicity of this video, we'll just focus on any sort of swings coming out of A. So when we pick up our first gun, we have our Vandal. If we look at the Vandal stats, we see that it has a fire rate of roughly 10 bullets a second, a run speed that is fairly standard at 5.4. The first bullet in accuracy, you can see there at first shot spread at 0.25. But then when you ADS, it shrinks down a little bit, and then it becomes 0.157, so a slight increase. Reload speed is 2.5, and the magazine has 25 rounds in it. So you go down to the alt fire, you'll see that there's a zoom, so we're getting whatever our vision is without alt fire, plus that 0.25. Our fire rate is decreased, so we no longer have the fire rate of almost 10 rounds a second. It's roughly down to like 8-ish, 9. The move speed is reduced, so instead of having a 5.4 run speed, we now have a 4.1 run speed. And then once again, it tells you that there's a slight spread and recoil reduction, which you can see in the ADS stat. And then the crosshair follows recoil. So taking that all into consideration, when an enemy swings, what are we looking at? So here's an enemy, and my crosshair doesn't really have too much to work with, right? I have such little room for air that hitting a headshot at this range, while doable, and if you're like a pro, you could probably hit it every time. Even at ADS, that 0.25 increase isn't really helping us with kind of like our pixel selection. We still have like very, very small room for air. So if we go ahead and send back the Brimstone, see a Brim, and we pick up the Operator. So the Operator, as we take a look at the stats, has a fire rate of 0.6. So comparing that to the Vandal of almost 10, that's basically no time whatsoever, right? So the run speed is slightly reduced. It was a 5.4 with the Vandal. It's now a 5.13 with the Operator. So you're moving slower with the Operator out. The equip speed is 0.5 slower, so it takes longer to equip it. The first shot spread is ridiculous, right? As we look at the reload speed, it is higher, I believe by, 1.2. And then in the magazine, you have 5 rounds. Taking a look at the damage stats, all that we really care about is body shot or headshot, as that eliminates in one shot. And as you see the fire rate and the reload speed, you're going to want to hit your shots. So the fire rate is 100%. So you get the full 0.6 rounds per second. So whether you're in hip fire or you're zoomed in, same fire rate. You're getting like one shot. The move speed is greatly reduced. So your move speed without zooming in is 5.13. Your move speed while zoomed in is 3.6. So that's a big reduction. And then once again, it tells you the slight spread and recoil reduction. It's not slight. It's probably just a copy and paste. It's 0. So, but then the kick on it is pretty ridiculous, right? And then your crosshair follows that kick. So in this situation, obviously we have the zooms, which we'll take advantage of because as we saw, the hip fire is 5, which requires you to get fairly lucky to hit your shot. So as the brimstone pops out, as you can see, the pixel selection is better. So with the Vandal, it was like, you barely had any room to make any sort of air. Since we're using an operator, we now have all of this space to work with, from the stomach or body at the bottom where it starts all the way up to the head. So we have more area to work with to immediately take down our target. And it gets even better when you zoom. So when I zoom, I've got even more space to play with, right? And so it's really important to kind of like notice the difference in like what you're looking for, is that when you're using the operator, you're increasing the area from which you can hit a target and take it down. Now, going back to which one would I take, it really is situational, right? If two people swing me, that fire rate and that reload speed are really going to be hard to deal with, especially if I'm swung out trying to take full advantage of my angle. Two people swing this, I can't kill both. And that's where I guess the Vandal would come in. So if you have a Vandal, you have the greater move speed at 5.4. And so when people swing you, you can take a shot and move, take shots and move, and you're a harder target to hit. Whereas if I have the operator, even if I use it once, if I'm not in zoom, I have a 5.13. So I have less mobility. And if I am in zoom, I have a massive mobility differential between the two, right? So it's a situational case, but the operator shines at long distances, so I would likely take the operator. Moving closer, we are given the same option, the operator and the Vandal. And in this situation, the reason why I wanted to make this a stage was because of the fact that at this level, you're going to start making trade-offs. So let's take a look at the Vandal first. Taking a look at our character, like we have more pixels to play with, so we have more area for us to hit at closer distance. We do the same thing with the operator. Once again, we don't fire and hip fire because center of body, oh, should I hit him? Sometimes it hits. But as you notice, it did not hit last time when we were further away, right? So what that means is closer you get, hip fire becomes more accurate because the target's closer to you. But don't expect that every single time. So as we said, there's more space for here to work with, but the Vandal is slowly approaching a time where the Vandal and the operator are going to have roughly the same positives and negatives, and you'll have to make that decision. And how do you make that decision? Well, you kind of want to stack your advantages, right? We're always trying to maximize our advantages. So I probably would still take the operator here, and it's in the simple fact that I can see deeper into the angle. It's larger on my screen, and I have more time to react because I can see more of something coming at me. But once again, if you pick the Vandal at this distance, ADS or regular, I mean, you're right there too, right? Like there was enough space here and enough pixels to work with where my ability to move and shoot, where the operator doesn't have that ability, can really start to creep up the closer we get. So as we get closer, one of the things that I wanted to kind of like point out that weighed on my thinking was really you can use the operator up until this point, but in the left-hand side of your screen, do you notice how there's the circle that kind of blocks vision, right? That's like the developer telling you that this is a sniper rifle, and you should not be taking the sniper rifle into close quarters combat for the simple fact that we're going to block part of your screen, right? And so as you get closer, you can still use this, but it's focused. Like you have to swing specific angles, which you should be doing with both. But realistically, the developer is telling you with like this graphic overlay is that this is not a close quarters weapon, and we're giving you a reason why it shouldn't be. So if we go back, pick up our Vandal and make the same sort of movements, there's no difference in my visibility, whether ADS or not. You can see I kind of like lose some space, but as I'm moving forward, I have full visibility of what's happening around me. So the closer I get to the enemy, I want a different gun. I don't want an operator because I lose that visibility. I lose the advantage, right? At least here we're equal now, right? Or, if I swing this and they have an operator, yeah, sure, like this might become handy again. But realistically, if I'm fighting people right here, the closer I get, the Vandal is going to shine where the operator cannot. The last part of this lecture is going to cover headshot textures. Now, I came across headshot textures by accident, But as soon as I realized that there were textures around the map that indicated head level, I started going around, and you could say I headhunted for these textures. And I found something very interesting. So not everything on the wall will give you the exact head level, right? And that's what we're striving for as an additional way to get an advantage against your opponent, is keeping your crosshair at head level. But sometimes it gets a little crazy, right? Like if I'm looking at this wall, like where exactly do I put head level? So it seems like Riot went ahead and put these little indicators around the map that show you where head level is. But it's disguised because not everything shows head level. So this little gray texture you see here, just right above Brim's head, is an example of that, where this texture does not show you head level. This texture indicates the very top of the head. And so if you aim below, you'll get headshot level. Now, if we move Brim over, I want to draw your attention to this hammer on the wall, or what I believe to be a hammer. Now, the hammer indicates chest level, but then at the top level, it is perfectly in line with the head. So as you can see, this is a really good example of a situation where one texture is showing you that headshot level is below it, while the other is showing you exactly head level. Now this is the back boathouse, and as you can see, we can see Brim's arm, and that can be an indication, but as he peeks out, we see more of his body and more of the textures around him. And once again, the continuation of the gray bar tells us that we need to aim below it. And so since we're aiming below it, we are head level, and that kind of extends. Now, one of the really interesting things is that Riot tries to disguise these things. So as you can see on the wall, the textures change a bit. But still, even as I get closer, the gray bar is still telling me to aim lower. And aiming lower gets me head level. So here's another example of where what we're used to is the box being head level. But if we take a look at this box, it kind of is a bit confusing, once again, disguising its intent. And we'll see as the brimstone comes along that it's really in that black space that we're now aiming for. We're no longer kind of focusing at the top of the box, because to do so would kind of give us a shoulder shot if we aimed incorrectly. And so these are the different variations of headshot level. And so finally, as kind of what we always do, the next video will be bonus material, and we'll go over ISO. And one of the complaints about ISO is that he's not strong enough. Well, guess what? I'm going to give you the headshot level of the ISO ult, which will make sure that you win all of your duels against any opponent. And then I'll also show you how to use the walls to increase your chances of winning those duels as well. So my name is Ruse. Thank you if you held on this long. I hope this information is useful. And as always, I hope you have a great day. Take care.